Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Live Healthy Now. I would like to welcome Rebecca Catterall to the podcast. Rebecca's here to share her story and experience of menopause, which I know she's very eager to do, and I'm so looking forward to the conversation today. So welcome, Rebecca. It's lovely to see you.
Hi, Nicola. That's a fantastic thing. We've gone. Our connections
Oh, is it gone?
gone.
Can you
went
see
dark.
me? All right.
Yeah.
I went, okay. Don't, if I happen to go off, it's still recording both of us because it records onto our local drives. So just hopefully, I know you froze a little bit, so that's fine. We'll just go again. Can you hear me
Sorry
all
about
right?
that. Yeah.
No, it's
It's just
fine.
bad. I was like, I've got if my internet goes or the signal drops, I get a
Yeah.
warning normally, and I'm
Oh
like,
dear.
is it me? What?
I'm
What?
just checking your upload speed. Oh, you're at 95%, so it's quite good. Right, I'll go
Yeah.
again then. Welcome to today's episode of Live Healthy Now, where we're going to be diving into all things menopause with our guest Rebecca Catterall. So, welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you, Nicola. Lovely to be here.
Yeah, it's great to see you. I know you're really excited about sharing your story of menopause, and I just want to dive straight in and find out a bit about what your understanding and perception was of menopause before you went into perimenopause, which we'll come on to.
I had never really thought anything of it. All I know is that all the women experience the menopause. They get rather cranky, they get really hot, and they seem to drink a lot. And the period stop, which was like the only thing I was interested in. So yeah, my knowledge was really detailed and heavily researched.
Yeah. And obviously that came from what you heard as you were being brought up. Did your mum ever talk about menopause and share things? Did you have, other women in your family that you heard about it from?
No, it was never something that's been really spoken about. We weren't a very kind of like open family in that kind of way, discussing those experiences. My mum didn't go through the menopause; she had a hysterectomy, and I'm not too sure what went on, but it's just not the done thing to talk about such things. I like to freak them out at the moment and mention if I'm on my period or something and I'm feeling a bit like bloated or something. You can see the kind of like the grins and sort of like, okay, that's enough. That's yeah.
Yeah. And what about as you were growing up? Do you remember anything at school about it? When we have the girls talk about periods and puberty.
No, I think that the only thing we had was like it was the cringy cucumber display. And then we had explanations about tampons and how to do it. I mean, back in my day, I think the sanitary pads were still with the giant belts on that you had to wear. I can't remember at any point in my life being told what will happen at a later stage. It was just, you're going to have periods, this is it, get ready, you're going to ovulate. I don't think we were properly educated about ovulation or cycles or anything. It's just, you're going to have a period. That's Just be
That's
careful.
the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Until another difficult part comes when you won't have periods anymore,
Yeah.
and then
I
that's going to be
yeah.
scary.
I just presumed there was like a magic switch where one day magically your body turned everything off, shut the doors and said, right, no more periods now. And you lived happily ever after a bit of grumpiness.
Yeah. So, do you mind if I ask you how old you are, Rebecca?
I do not mind at all. I'm 48 now
Yeah.
and I am embarrassed about how little I knew about what happens to women's bodies as they age. I am heavily researching it now.
Right. So then, tell us why you're researching it. Like, what changed for you? When did you start to have to think about menopause?
I would say it started about 5 years ago, but really noticed 3 years ago. 5 years ago, we'd been on holiday, we'd gone sailing, and my periods are pretty regular, but really heavy, and they were sometimes I was having them twice a month. And I was just whinging to the girls on this sailing holiday, and they're all in the NHS, they're all practice managers, nurses. And I'm not saying they laughed at me, But they're all 10 years or so older than me, and they just looked at me, all looked at each other and nodded, oh yeah, that'll be perimenopause. What? What is this? What are you talking about? I've not heard of perimenopause. It wasn't as readily talked about 5 years ago as it is now. And then I go down rabbit holes. If you tell me something, I will be researching it on like every platform possible. So I was on a boat in the middle of Greece, so sea, trying to get signal to Google perimenopause. And then it fit. So then it was the fun of trying to get the GPs and everything when I got home and trying to get any further after that. But yeah, that was the first I'd heard of perimenopause. I didn't realise that it was a before menopause state.
Yeah, and you're right. I was exactly the same. I'm 47 and, I've only been in this space like 2 years. And I think it's probably only in that last 2 years that I've heard about it, or heard about it in a way that made me think, oh, I want to know more about this. Even as I was starting to build my business, I remember going to a free workshop on menopause and hearing about it. And that was the first real, I guess, like insight I'd had to exactly what it was. And I certainly hadn't known that this was something that could be a part of your life for years before the actual menopause. So what kind of symptoms did you have, and have they changed? Tell us a little bit about that journey for you.
Yeah, this is where I feel like I'm cheating a bit, because a lot of the symptoms I see as regular, apart from brain fog, I don't seem to get. My periods are still really regular. Mm-hmm. Now and again, my body likes to trick me by missing 1 month. I think it's happened twice, or by having 2 periods in a month. But my main symptom is brain fog. And then I get all these tiny little symptoms I didn't know were anything to do with menopause. I get tinnitus now and again, trouble with my sleeping, hair loss, joint pain. I didn't know was a menopause thing. I just figured it was biscuits, COVID, weight gain. But I am now a little bit more suspicious. The hair loss was not fun. I'm really struggling with sleep at the moment, but I don't have night sweats. I don't really do hot flushes. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I'd rather have the common symptoms or the weird little ones that you see at the bottom of the list.
There's so many symptoms now, and so much of what you've said, I didn't know about either. So even for me, in September last year, I started to get severe tinnitus in one ear. And I remember when it came on, but I'd had a really bad cold and very nasally. So I just thought it was that. But when it hadn't gone after a couple of weeks and I was starting to go insane because of not being able to sleep with the noise, I went to see the doctor and I got referred. And I had some tests done and there's basically nothing wrong. And it was only by some of the work I'm doing to prepare for the program I'm bringing out this month that I realised tinnitus is one of the symptoms that women can get because of menopause, and it's all linked to the fall in estrogen that we have and how estrogen is a receptor on every cell in our body. And so when we are losing estrogen, it can affect so many things. Hair loss. Oh my God, I am so with you on hair loss. My hair, I'm surprised I've got any hair left. And the frizz, I've got so much hair growth or snapped hair, it's just literally frozen up. And the last 3 months it's just changed completely.
My hair texture has completely changed the last few years, and that was something I wasn't ready for at all. I have got really thick hair, and it's coarse, thick hair. And I've always had it's really been nice and curly without any effort. I could style it. I knew what shampoos it liked. And now it's just like, no, we liked that last month, but we don't like that shampoo anymore. I'm just like, you're really doing my head in now. I'm lucky I don't have the spot outbreaks, but I think, bloating. Oh my goodness me, bloating. What an enjoyable pastime that one is. It's IBS kind of things. I've always been a pear-shaped, and I think this is one of the most soul-destroying parts for me, is I'm just bloated all the time. Any weight is now going on in my middle. which leads to further health implications. It seems harder to get rid of it. My body hates me. But yeah, the bloating is, for someone that's always dressed a certain way, like, I know what suits me as a pear-shaped. I'm tall. I was happy and confident enough with my looks, but this pear-shaped, this round body, I don't know how to dress it or anything anymore. I'm just like, maybe I won't buy new clothes for the next 5 years until it stops.
Oh, so there's a couple of things I want to dive into there. But first, I want to ask about the doctors, because you mentioned when you came back off that sailing trip in Greece, when you first started hearing and looking into menopause or perimenopause. Yeah, did you go to the GP, and what happened then? You know, did they help you in any way?
Bless. Yes. Yeah, so I was 43 and they were just not interested, really. It's a very nice little practice. It's a small village practice. I think there's only one doctor there, 2 locums. But they're not geared up the way some of the big practices are that have these nurses just for menopause and so on. And because I was under 45, they were just like, oh, well, we'll do a blood test, we'll do this, that and the other. But they just weren't going to do anything. And then I'm one of these annoying people. I went away and read the WHO guidelines for testing menopause. I am the person that reads the small print on anything you give me to sign. I will go through it. So I went back to them and I'm like, right, I've read the WHO guidelines, and the WHO guidelines state blah, 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 blah. And you shouldn't be doing blood tests to monitor it in this way, and looking at my symptoms. And I've monitored them for so long. And it just went back and forth. And I gave up for a little bit because I had other things going on. It was just trying to get into the doctors was fun. But at 45, I went back and I'm like, right, these are the things. I want to see someone about it. And I got to see the advanced practitioner nurse. And I told her about the bloating. I told her about the sleepiness. I told her about the headaches, the brain fog. I'm really data and fact orientated. It's my whole work. It's what I'm paid for by my client to be. And I can't remember the word for, well, anything at the moment. I'm just sat here sometimes thinking, I was flip chart the other week. I couldn't remember the word for a flip chart. And so I said to them, I need something. I need, oh, well, why don't we give you something for the IBS? We'll give you this, this and this. And then we'll give you something else for that. And we'll give you this and this. Oh, but you can't have that because of this and that. I'm like, how about instead? No, I don't want to treat 5 different ailments. I don't want all these different medications. I want you to give me something for the menopause. I want HRT. Oh, well, but if we just try... No. And I had to put my foot down and tell them what I wanted. And I've always been brought up that the doctors know what they're doing. So I felt rude, but I also think I'm in a position of privilege to have the confidence to do that with someone. And in the end, they agreed to the HRT, and then they wanted to give me tablets. And again, I'd already researched that. I looked on the manufacturer's website, and it tells you not to enter this certain area if you're not a trained medical professional. I said, yes, of course, I'm a trained medical professional. And I went and read the evidence about the tablets and how they were for women that live in deprived areas that suffer from certain health conditions due to their lower income lifestyles. Tablets are one of the worst things they could be given because it's got higher implications health-wise. So I'm like, okay, I'm overweight. I'm not too much into the body mass index, but if that's what the NHS is going off and prescribing, I really shouldn't be on tablets. So I put my foot down and said I want the patches. And that was it 3 years ago. And now I'm pushing to get things reassessed. Because I've been on patches for, well, nearly 2 years now. But they haven't ever called me back and asked me how they're going. So I don't know. I've still got brain fog. I've still got all this sort of thing. I'm just taking a patch twice a day. Twice a week.
In the estrogen patches... The predominantly estrogen ones, I think they probably will be.
I think they are, yeah. There's a Conti. There are 2. There's one I put on, 2 different ones, and they go on twice a week.
Right.
And they mess it up every month when I order them.
So I think, yeah, I mean, you, as you say, you were someone who was prepared to challenge the doctor, but
Mm.
women of our generation were brought up to be very respectful to hierarchy and bureaucracy, and
Yeah.
doctors are people who, so for many of us that's something that would be very much out of our comfort zone, and I've listened to Dr. Louise Newson. She's someone who I've
Yeah.
done a lot of research with in a book, and I've spoke to some local doctors and nurses where I live to get some insights as well, and she talks a lot about women like you who go to visit their surgery, see a GP or nurse, and then they end up with a whole raft of prescriptions for depression or anxiety, IBS, sleep, joint pain, whatever else it may be, that they're struggling with. And they're treating all of these symptoms individually and not putting together like you were able to do, and then tell that back to the trained medical person that, actually this is all menopausal and I don't need to treat them, because if I help these symptoms by replacing the hormone I've lost that's causing them to happen, then they're going to reverse or, reduce and not be as problematic as they are now. And some women have ended up, I've heard a couple of women talk about like horror stories of, there was one woman, she literally one day was going to take her own life. She'd packed a shopping bag with all the pills, and it was only because her daughter found out what she was doing that she took her mum to the GP and said, it had been many years where she'd ended up on such strong medication for pain, for psychosis, for things that she believed were really wrong with her, and actually it was all because she'd reduced her the estrogen, progesterone, and possibly testosterone as well. So it's scary, isn't it? And it's great that you equipped yourself with the knowledge.
I do feel, I don't want to start waving flags, but I do feel a lot that if it was men that suffered with these kind of symptoms or these ailments at certain periods of their life, the services and investment in services would be so different.
Yeah.
I think women are meant to just suck it up and get on with it.
So there's so much I've heard about that, and Louise Newson does say exactly that. She's a doctor, she's running this huge, menopause clinic and charity now, and she's part of the government advisory board. And she is of the same belief, that if this were for men, then it would be different, and not just for menopause, but in general, there's very little investment and data around women's health, which is why women are now dying. Twice as many women die of dementia than men. Women dying from heart disease, twice as many as with breast cancer. So, if there was more research into women specifically and their health, because a lot of what she's starting to find through research and some other scientists are that some of these diseases are as an impact of the reduction in our hormones that happen from menopause. And there's a lot of data now proving that when you take HRT and you replace those lost hormones, that you are massively reducing your risk of dementia, heart disease, other cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, which is, I'm not medically trained, this is all just what I've learned, like, yourself and from what I've been exposed to. But yeah, there's definitely a kind of divide as well, in kind of almost a postcode lottery, depending where you live, that your surgery might be very well informed, other surgeries are not. I know from speaking to people in my area, and someone who was a GP, have said it's really, really difficult, because a lot of the directives within the NHS are still towards not prescribing menopause and not doing it for women under 50. Some surgeries it's under 45. And so it is a bit of a kind of case of luck as to where you go to. And if someone doesn't know this, and also, more importantly, doesn't even know the basics of what symptoms might be related to menopause, they could be, really thinking there's something seriously wrong or something else wrong that needs a different course of treatment, which isn't what their body really needs. And so it's potentially causing other damage, isn't it? And
Oh,
stress
yes.
with it. Yeah. So I hear what you're saying, and I've heard this a lot from other people as well. And then on the flip side of that, what I've also heard is because of the what they're calling the Davina effect with that Davina McCall series, is that doctors are also resistant because they're like, oh, they just want to look like Davina, thin and, you know, with a six pack at 50 or whatever. And, you know, everyone wants bloody HRT now, so that, you know, they're all demanding it because Davina's told them to come and get it. And so there's actually doctors who are pushing back as well on that, because that's what they're seeing a lot of, is women over 40 coming
Yeah.
and going, well, I want HRT. I know I can get HRT. I'm going to have nice skin and better hair and look great. And, you know, and a lot of them have
Yeah.
obviously got genuine symptoms to go with that as well. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? A couple of things you'd said just before there were about, you know, oh, I forgot what it was now. That's my perimenopause brain. When you said about forgetting the words, I'm exactly the same. Yeah, when you were saying about your change in body and in the way you feel in yourself and some of the challenges there, like, has it impacted your feeling of confidence and self-worth?
Yes, to the point, like I put weight on differently now. I have got at least 4 stone to lose now. I'm the heaviest I have ever been. I'm trying to walk more, I'm trying to do more, and it's want to walk more, but then I've got plantar fasciitis, so it really hurts my feet and ankles after a while. And then I've got something wrong with my back. I went for physio, and it's just like whatever I want to try and do to make things better, I'm struggling. Food wise, I love salads, I love vegetables, I love fruit, I love cooking. I don't mind if I have meat or not, I'm not fussed. I just seem like no matter what I do, this I'm not seeing improvements, and I don't like the body. I do not look at myself in the mirror anymore, especially if I'm naked. I don't live with my partner, but I have really gone off sex, and it's more because I just can't bear the thought of seeing myself naked or anything. I feel so sorry for him. He is so supportive and trying to be understanding. I don't think he understands the menopause properly. And I always want to make sure he understands it's not a rejection of him. I just feel so uncomfortable sexually, physically, with the weight I'm carrying at the moment. And I worry that how it's going to play out in the future if I can't see a change. I'm trying to be more accepting of the size I am now. I've gone up from a 16 to a 20 in 3 years. And so I have seeded. I have bought a size 20 pair of trousers, and trying to make myself just like, right, this is the size we're at the moment. Let's just get a couple of pieces so that we at least feel better when I'm going out, because otherwise I want to be in a yashmak, maybe black. with, I don't want. I just do not feel anywhere near my old self, which affects my confidence. I have depression on and off. It's been quite bad since last August, and it got to its worst in January. And I think a lot of it is menopause related ailments and the impact of it on myself mentally and physically.
Yeah. And do you feel as though these changes that have happened physically and mentally, you know, haven't been as a result of you changing other things in how your lifestyle is, that it is linked to these perimenopausal symptoms and changes?
I do find it difficult to try and pinpoint them all, but it's kind of like I'm very depressed. Now, is that depressed because I'm of a menopausal thing, or is it something else? Or is it that they're kind of like so entwined, or the menopause and like hormone levels and so on, so entwined with my mental well-being? I couldn't tell you where one begins and the other one sort of starts or ends. But I do feel there's a correlation of things having got worse. So it's like my hairline receding, my eyebrows thinning. That all affects women, especially with your appearance. I can cover up spots. I can do, certain things. I'm not bothered about the greys. They're happy to grow out. But when I start receding here, and when my eyebrows start to get really thin and there's patches and stuff, it just gives you that another knock. So it's not just like one thing you have to deal with. It's something else that you have to sort of look in the mirror at every day and see, and try and make yourself feel better about.
Yeah.
I forgot what the question was now.
No, it was just that, asking whether what you're struggling with and experiencing you think is because of the menopause and not because of, other changes that have perhaps negatively impacted your habits and lifestyle.
I think if it weren't for the menopause, I would be able to cope with things a lot better. I don't think there are other things. I think the menopause is currently the root of my problems. I don't feel confident about what balance I have with my hormones. I've still got really bad brain fog. I've still got all these other symptoms. I feel like, yes, I'm taking a patch, but for all I know, it could be the lowest dose going, and it's of minimal impact, if any.
Yeah. So obviously I can't advise you. We'll have a little chat off air. I'm not medically trained to advise, but from what I know, and this is to anyone listening who's struggling with this, it is a journey with HRT. It's a case of trial, tweak, see how that works, and tracking. Has it improved anything? Has it not? And if it hasn't, it's not doing any damage by taking it, but you will need adjustments. So it may be that what you are being given on the patch isn't high enough, as you say, or isn't a combination of the right hormones. So I know that testosterone isn't licensed to be prescribed generally in this country. I think that's the term, but it can be prescribed, and they are really pushing to have it prescribed. I'm sure it's in Australia where it's just part of HRT treatment. Yeah, because testosterone's the thing that can really impact the brain fog, your memory retention, your sex drive. Because a lot of women don't realise that we have testosterone. They think it's a male hormone.
It's
and when
just
they
a
hear
different balance.
Yeah, it's exactly. And we have it and we need it for things. And it does actually really help with our energy levels, with being able to work out. So yeah, it may be that you need a tweak. And what I have heard as well is that the patches are not effective for everyone because of the way your skin it attaches with the patch and absorbs the hormones in, so the gels can be much better for some people. Again, the gels might not suit everyone, or there's different types of gels. So I think the fact that they haven't took you in when you went and explained everything and got the HRT to go, let's review in 3 months, let's review in 6 months, or however long. It's just, there you go, off you go. And again, it's then the onus is on you. Yeah, isn't it? And I think something else I want to call out, which I know through June I am bringing all of these menopause chats and put to the podcast, so there's probably going to be a bit of repetition, but menopause and perimenopause doesn't happen when you've stopped your periods or you have irregular periods. Menopause itself is the day 12 months after your last period. But going through, as we like to term it, going through menopause is really the perimenopause. Yeah. And your periods can be very regular. Mine are regular. I've tracked my periods for, I think, the last 15 years. My periods are 29 to 31 days every month. But I know how much I've changed over the past 6 months, and some very, very specific things that have started to happen, and things I can pinpoint into my cycle that I've never had before, which, is hard. And that's the other thing actually I wanted to pick up on, Rebecca, from what you were saying before, was all of these things that we're talking about, most of them anyway, are very general and can be associated to so much of your life. It could just be, well, I've got a busy, stressful job, or I've got a family to take care of, or I'm just not happy with who I am, or I'm struggling with money, or I'm just knackered, or whatever it might be. Well, that's why I'm depressed, that's why I've got brain fog, that's why I'm losing hair, that's why I'm not sleeping well. And that's been why so many women have put up and shut up for years and years, because they've just thought, well, I'm only menopausal when I've got no periods anymore.
Yeah.
and this is just life. This is just hard life, and I'm a woman, and I've got to just crack on and do everything, isn't it?
I am really open, and I talk to everybody about perimenopause. I talk to everybody I bump into in this supermarket. My partner just laughs at me now for just talking to strangers all the time.
Keep cheering for the cause.
But I have heard so many women say, I can't be menopausal or perimenopausal because I still have my periods. And I'm just like, oh, sweetie. It's just...
But we don't know. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's no... The only thing I ever remember as a child is that the menopause is hell, puberty is hell, and you're going to go through it all again when you're older, and then when at least your periods stop at the end of it, and hot flushes, and that's what you hear. But a lot of women actually don't even have hot flushes. So yeah, it's so difficult, and this is why I want to raise awareness. But also one of the things you said was about, you know, like taking charge of how you feel, and you touched a couple of times on protecting your health for the longer term, you know, that you want to take care of yourself to not put yourself at risk of illness or disease. And this is a huge part of the program I'm bringing out, and what I want people to learn and realise, you know, the need to take control of with the health, is that menopause doesn't stop once you've had that 12-month gap, and that's it. And it's like, phew, that's it. I've been through the menopause. It's done. There's no other side. There isn't a other side of the fence and a finish line, because you're menopausal without those hormones for the rest of your life. You're then classed as postmenopausal, and that risk puts you at risk of so many of those things I've mentioned earlier. And so it's great that you have that awareness, and that's what we need women to learn now, isn't it? Is one, perimenopause is going to happen to everyone who has been born as a female. And at the moment, we're half of the population in the world. So half of us are going to experience this. You need to know what it is, what it's going to feel like, to recognise it for you when it's happening, and know how to be prepared for that. So whether you're perimenopausal now or not, the more healthier you are, and the more awareness you've got about the lifestyle choices and habits you can have to help yourself through this season of your life, to then, you know, build them in for the rest of your life to be a strong, healthy woman, you know, the better you will navigate all of these changes. And
I think it's being able to advocate
yourself
for yourself as well.
Yeah.
It's knowing all of that and being able to sort of verbalise or express to somebody else who's supposed to be prescribing you stuff or finding you help, this is what I want. I think, so many of us are just so used to just, it's like period pain. We just get used to it. It's just how it is. It's just how it is. We'll just put up with it. It's like, oh, not anymore. I think the women are rising.
Yes, we are. And we are sharing that knowledge. So thanks, Rebecca, for sharing. Because I know you've been really vulnerable and shared how it's affecting you. And I just literally champion you to get back to the doctors, to tell them that, you know, you've waited a couple of years and it hasn't really improved, and you definitely need to have some adjustment made. And
I think it's getting that energy back to do it again, because it's that fight of having to sort of insist on things. When I spoke to the advanced practitioner nurse, she did not seem to know what was available for me. So it's like, again, I feel like I'm going to have to go and do all this research and then take it to her. They were telling me to get the coil, the Marina coil, and I said, well, that's fine, but I'm quite sure of, as a woman approaching 50, who's not looking for birth protection, I am probably not really going to be high on that waiting list to have that.
I've heard that as well from someone else, but that again isn't fixing what your reduction in hormones because of perimenopause is doing. I think they try to do it as a way to stop your periods, so that you're not having that and that, you know, challenge in your monthly cycle. But I'm wary
of that. I've had the injection previously, and I basically just had a period for 3 months, so I'm really wary of some of these things.
I was told not that I couldn't have the coil unless I was prepared to give it at least 6 months, and that for those 6 months I could bleed every day, because the mini pill I'd been on, I bled, I think, for 7 weeks constantly, and it was awful. It was, you might have a day where you didn't, and then you think, phew, and then suddenly you're somewhere and you're like, oh my God, I'm bleeding again.
Yeah.
And so she basically said, and this was a female doctor, she said, well, it doesn't sound like you're able to cope very well, so you won't cope with the coil because you're going to have to give it at least 6 months. And if you bleed every day for 6 months, we won't take it out. So my recommendation is not to have it, because it sounds like your body reacts with those hormones and forces you to have menstrual bleeding. So, yeah.
That sounded really sympathetic and emphatic. That sounded just like someone I wanted to be.
Yeah, and this was quite a number of years ago.
Yeah.
But this, you know, I don't want people listening to be scared because of your experience, because it is difficult for us right now, because, as we're saying, things haven't shifted, but we've got to be part of helping that change to happen. As you say, we've got to help, you know, make those shifts forward where we are demanding of doctors to boost their knowledge. And I know from what I've heard and learned, and it's very open out there in public arenas now, that most doctors don't learn anything as a medical student and then a junior doctor. You know, GPs are general practitioners, and most of them have had maybe an hour training on menopause, also maybe an hour training on sleep. In, you know, they learn so much about biology and physiology, but not about the actual things that we experience. So, you know, it's not their fault. It's that they're part of a system that 20 years ago decided HRT was extremely harmful for women because they'd been misinformed. That data has been proven to be completely wrong and inaccurate, and has led to so many challenges with women's health and disease, and where we are now trying to reverse all of that. So I believe it's happening. I do really believe there's a lot of positivity, isn't there, with doctors and scientists now.
We've had some good things as well with the cost of HRT, with the new certificate that's come out. And I do feel like some of the GPs and services struggle so much because of the state the NHS itself is in. But I think the more we can educate and inform ourselves and each other as women, the more we can sort of find services that will help us and can help us. And we just, I think being open and talking about this stuff more, instead of shying away from the topic of women's bodily functions and health and everything, it's a case of like, let's just help each other out and just make sure
and we need to open these conversations, as we started with. You know, we were hidden away from this as children, and we've been brought up, you know, even to be embarrassed about saying you're on your period, you know, to someone that, you know, at work, and, you know, especially males. But we've got to normalise this because it is just part of life, isn't it?
Yeah, trying to slide off to the toilet in a workplace with a sort of towel tucked, like running off. And then women are embarrassed when they're menopausal because there's a lot of shame attached to it, you know, again, because we think we've just got to crack on and cope with it. I know some of my friends suffered with it mentally because they saw it as the end of their like the fertility and so on. They didn't want more children, but now the choice has been taken away from them. And it's like, I now feel like an old woman, you know, I'm old, my periods are stopping, and it's a massive mental thing for some people to be moving from that stage of their life where I'm lucky. I don't know if my brain's skipped it or just blocked it or is in denial, but that doesn't bother me. I'm just like, I'm ready, bring it on, make the periods go away.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily just the fertility piece. I think it's the perception we've been given that it's the beginning of the end, and that's
the crone.
Part. Yeah, that's a piece of the programme I've brought out, is that, you know, even if you have no symptoms, it's still important for you to know what's happening to your body, because there can be a lot of mental consequences because you see yourself as shifting into old age. And so there's a lot of self-acceptance, the word you use there, that you need to support yourself on. And so, yes, there's all of the physiological things and the practical things that we need to be aware of to support ourselves from future ill health, but also to, support ourselves and be compassionate and know that this doesn't mean the end, and that we are still, women with vitality and vibrancy, and we can live a great life. And that's what I'm trying to help people do. But at the same time, signpost them if they do need that extra support. So I will make sure all of the notes contain links to the Balance app, which I recommend any woman signing up to and tracking. It's totally free. It's through Dr. Louise Noble. I'll link to her, I'll link to her as well. And she has a great podcast. Some of it might be too, sciencey and medical for some people, but there's a lot of, valuable information for free on her website and through the app as well. Lots of support, I think, with community groups that I've certainly found to be valuable.
The app is brilliant. The Balance app is really easy to use as well. It's just very intuitive. I like that one.
Yeah. And as you said, when you went to your doctor the very first time, you could give them exactly what was happening to you, and again when you went back. And that's what the Balance app is trying to help women do, is to be armed with information, because you get a GP appointment for 10 minutes, you're supposed to be going with one problem, but if you've got all of the symptoms we've talked about, that's 10, 15, maybe 20 things. The doctor is going to be knowing one thing at a time. Whereas if you go and say, I've been tracking my symptoms, I have multiple symptoms, and I'm pretty sure they're all part of perimenopause, I've been tracking them for X amount of time using this app, these are some of the things, and I want to be treated as menopausal, not individually trying to see where these things might be coming from. That is, like you say, that's advocating for yourself, having that awareness. And yes, we shouldn't have to be the person with power when we go to see a doctor, but for us as women right now, that's what we need to do, and gradually we'll start to shift that, and they'll build better awareness and support within their practices and treatment offers. So,
and not being scared of saying no to what is suggested. Or demanding more. Definitely.
Because I'm sure many of us, whether for ourselves or people in our family, we've got stories of, having come out of a doctor with something that we weren't comfortable with at the time. So definitely speak up for yourself, even if it's like talking to the headmaster and you think you're going to get wrong. Just say, actually, no, that's not the course of action that I want. I'm looking for HRT, or to know for sure, that this is what's happening to me.
Yeah, I've practiced that. I'm a people pleaser, so I really don't like confrontation, and I want everybody to be happy with me. So I do work with clients, and it's about sticky situations. So I now practice ways of saying no or standing up for myself. And I have to repeat them before I know I'm having a tricky conversation. I just have to turn them over in my head again and again, so that I don't simper. Oh, yes, okay, I don't mind that. Yes, sorry, okay, yes. So I'm like, actually, no, that doesn't work for me.
Oh, you're fantastic, Rebecca. I hope you've given people, food for thought and inspiration, because you can hear it's not easy right now. It hasn't been easy, but you've, really embraced trying to give yourself as much support and compassion as possible. So, I wish you, not luck, but I wish you,
success.
Strength, yes, and success when you go and, visit again to review your treatment, because I think it certainly sounds as though there's a change of HRT prescription needed, and hopefully you can do a bit of tweaking and trialing and get some improvement on your symptoms. So what would you give to someone, like, just, one tip for someone who may be coming into this season of their life and is starting like you and I were right at the very beginning?
I think it's definitely to keep a log, to keep a diary. At first, I didn't, the tinnitus and all these other things, I didn't know they were something that could happen. I have had the weirdest things. I had burning mouth. I didn't know that burning mouth was a thing. I certainly didn't realise it was a menopause symptom. I googled menopause symptoms. I found a few websites with lists and I looked through them and I started making note of what I was experiencing that was new. And once had that information, I just kept a log of the things I was going, and was it like around my period, during the period, in between, what else was going on. And I think that helped massively when I went to the doctors, because I was like ready, like there's no way you're doing this. It's that, or just be kind to yourself. Yeah, we have to be nicer to ourselves. The voice we use for ourselves in our heads has to be better. It has to be a gentle guiding hand, just be nice to yourself.
Well, I'm all about that. Yes, that is a huge part of well-being and health that most people never give a thought to. You know, they blast the gym, they make healthy food, and then they wonder why they still feel like crap, because they talk to themselves like crap, basically. You know, we're very good at beating ourselves up day in, day out for all the things we think we're not and you know, not worthy of. So yeah, if you know, you're that person, then this time in your life, it's time to be nice and enjoy what you have left, really, isn't it? Make the most of it. And
yeah, they just need to come and find either of us online, and we'll say nice things to them. and we'll just blot out all the mean things they say to themselves. We'll give them nice things.
Oh, so on that, Rebecca, you know, Rebecca and I connected through something to do with entrepreneurship. So she runs her own business, and interestingly, she has a background in operations and supports people with that now. And that, I guess, helped you to be able to build a tracker and be armed with information. A bit like me, that's my background. I like process. So yeah, let people know if they want to connect with you and find out more, Rebecca, where they can do that.
Yeah, the best place to do it really is come and stalk me on Instagram. It's really simple. It's just at the Catterall. I am on it all the time, mainly looking at decorating and food, sometimes pretending to do some work. But yeah, I geek out on strategy and operations and spreadsheets. I'm getting excited just thinking about them.
Oh, that's me. We're so alike. That's me. I was the spreadsheet queen when I was at Nike, yeah.
Oh, I tried explaining conditional formatting to my partner the other day when we made spreadsheets got different colours, and he just looked at me and I know he wonders sometimes, why am I with this woman?
Oh,
why?
Bless.
What did I do?
Maybe you need to create a menopausal symptom spreadsheet. I bet you've got it. I bet you have.
It's a Trello thing, but it's okay.
That, for anyone that doesn't know, that's an advanced version of Excel, kind of. Yeah, oh, that's brilliant.
But no, thank you very much for having me today. It's been really nice to talk to someone and whinge about all my health conditions.
I've really enjoyed it, and this is what I wanted us to do, was just have a very normal girl-to-girl chat and expose what you're struggling with and feeling, so that other people can associate with it and help themselves ultimately. So I really appreciate it. Thank you, Rebecca.
Oh, thank you very much.